12 Days of Spirituality, Day 11. Today's topic is solitude. In recent times, there's been a growing movement in psychology spaces that condemns isolation. But it's important to differentiate between solitude and isolation because they come from completely different angles, and one can make the mistake of looking at somebody who is alone a lot and say that they've isolated themselves, that it's unhealthy, that they need more connection, that people are not meant to be alone, etc., etc. And there seems to be a lot of sort of outrage against isolation. It just seems like people have a hard time accepting that being alone can be a healthy option for some people, even indefinitely. It can be healthy to be alone indefinitely, which is why it's important to distinguish between solitude and isolation. And that's what we're talking about in this video. Solitude has a positive connotation. Solitude is the voluntary withdrawal from social interactions, from society, in order to hone the inner connection with spirit. It comes from a positive frame of mind. It is the search of truth. It is the journey that people voluntarily undergo who want to pursue a spiritual path. And it can be a very helpful period or phase in one's life in order to accumulate spiritual knowledge and integrate it. Integration takes a lot of time and a lot of precision. And that's why solitude is often something that people choose, because it's very difficult to begin a spiritual journey if you've got voices all around you saying different things, often saying things that oppose the direction that you're going in. And so it sometimes becomes very necessary for people to journey alone, to be in solitude. And this comes from a place of wanting to grow. It comes from a positive frame of mind. Conversely, we have isolation, and isolation has a negative connotation to it. Isolation occurs when we cannot cope with the demands of the external world. So we find solace in shutting ourselves away and not interacting with the external world. We find great comfort in it. We want to be alone because when we're alone, we can be ourselves and we don't have to pretend. We don't have to put on an act, which so often is demanded of us in order to survive. But isolation has a negative connotation to it because it is done out of a means of self-preservation. It is done as a coping mechanism because we cannot handle the demands that the outer world places on us. So isolation seems like a justifiable escape for us. But what if I told you that isolation is not healthy? Isolation can be damaging because it's done from a place of escapism. You are running away from what needs to be looked at. So it's very important to distinguish between these two ways of being alone, because being alone in and of itself is not negative. It's not necessarily negative, it's not necessarily positive. It depends what frame of mind, what our intention is when we decide to undergo periods of aloneness. Because it can look completely different depending on who you are and what your intention is. So, solitude, again, is done with positive intention to undergo spiritual transformation. And some people really thrive being alone. They are really able to access parts of themselves that they wouldn't be able to with noise and distractions. And speaking personally, I love being alone. I thrive being alone, and I don't have any problems interacting, if I choose to, with the external world. I can hold a job if I wish. I can go outside and talk to people. But on a spiritual path, we often reach this place where our energy conservation becomes paramount. And at this point, we don't wish to expend energy unnecessarily through social interactions, because they can be draining, and we're dealing with all sorts of people, often energy vampires, who wish to take our energy, often unknowingly, but they are looking to feed off of our energy. And that's why solitude becomes so necessary for us. Again, isolation comes from a negative, running away, and shutting oneself in. Even the sound of the word sort of gives you an idea that it's negative, to isolate, to box oneself in. And so, I hope this video helped to distinguish between what those two words mean, and helped you to see that being alone is not necessarily negative, even if it's for very long periods of time, or indefinitely even. So please give this video a like if it resonated, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel for more content. Bye.